Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining live. So I'm really excited to be doing this Q&A. Yeah, looking forward to talking about some of the questions that you guys sent in. So I think they're great questions. I'm going to cover 4 today. So the 4 questions, I'm going to go through one at a time and we'll get into it. So the first question, I will get hungry 2 to 3 hours after I eat. And I tend to reach for potato chips when I know I should be eating fruit or nuts, etc. I stopped buying chocolate so I wouldn't reach for chocolate when I want to snack, but I'm so craving it. Once in a blue moon, I will buy dark chocolate. But what can I tell myself without making myself feel bad to snack on nuts, fruit, or something else? So I think this is a great question. I think it's something that a lot of people think about and struggle with. I would say, first of all, to back up even beyond or before the snack time and look at your meals and look at whether you're eating enough at mealtime. Because if you're hungry 2 hours after eating, then it's likely you're not eating enough at your meal, or it's not balanced enough. So maybe there's not enough protein or not enough fat or not enough carbs, depending on the type of meal you're eating. But there's this great saying that is, we diet through our meals and snack through our days. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but that's important to know because we try to eat light through our meals and then wonder why we're hungry and reaching for all of the foods when we're in between meals. So if you're having a salad for lunch, make sure there's some grains, make sure there's some toasted nuts and seeds or some cheese if you have dairy or other protein. Make sure that there's enough in your meal. The next thing that I would recommend is to look at the type of hunger, to ask what type of hunger am I really experiencing right now. So it sounds like there could be a bit of physical hunger, like there's not enough satiety in your meals to hold you over, but maybe there could also be some, boredom hunger or a need to get outside and get fresh air or get movement. So see what else is going on, look behind the curtain and see if there's anything else there. And then also anticipate your needs. If you see that this is a pattern, that you're always reaching for a snack or always reaching for the potato chips or the chocolate, anticipate those needs, knowing that you need a snack, but get really clear about what would best serve you and what you would need. I think a lot of times we form habits that are not helpful for us because the alternative isn't so clear. So it's really about making what we want to do clear and convenient. So in terms of snacks, and especially right now, I know we're all at home day in and day out, consider making a list of some go-to snacks that you would like to eat and you would enjoy. Make sure you're not just making the list about things you should eat. Make sure there are things that you look forward to eating and you enjoy. And then put that list maybe on your pantry door, and so that when you go to your pantry and open it, that's the first thing you see, that list. And then make sure the things that you want to be eating are front and center in the pantry. So that would be something else that I would recommend. And then finally, the final piece of this answer to your question about not wanting to reach for potato chips and what can you tell yourself without making yourself feel bad, but reach for the things that you want to be. This is a deeper conversation that I would get into with my clients in sessions, but I think we're having the wrong conversation. I think we're asking the wrong question. So instead of focusing on what should I not be eating, we should really be focusing on what do I really need? What do I really want? It's a very, subtle difference, but it's a big shift in energy to focus on what am I actually hungry for right now? What am I actually needing? And what is my, whole self needing? And that will open the door to recognizing, okay, I'm actually really hungry and potato chips aren't even going to help with that. And then you can see that it's not even about the potato chips. It's about, having a bigger need that you want to get met. And so then it's a whole other conversation. So the second question, I'm going to read it. Sometimes after finishing a meal, I think I need something more, either salty nuts, nut butter on cracker, or maybe a small bite of a piece of dark chocolate. Am I not being present during the meal, or is there something else? So this is so good. This is common also. I think it's important for us to understand that we're not alone in these situations, in these cravings. Janine, I'll burn out on a good snack, eating it exclusively, than getting sick of it. I love it. Yeah. Well, and I think that would be a good insight to have, to understand that we need a few snacks in our rotation. Just like we need different meals in our rotation, snacks are the same. So it I think is valuable to look or do the work to decide and find the snacks that work for us, and have a running list so that you can rotate through a few different ones. So yes, back to this question about finishing a meal and feeling like you need something else, like salty nuts or nut butter or chocolate. Am I missing anything in the meal itself? Well, I think that there's two options we can go, like two different paths we can take. I'll explain the two. One is to consider that this is habit. This is just a habit. There's something habitual to us kind of reaching for something after a meal, and nothing is wrong with that. So that would be one kind of pathway we can take. The other pathway would be to question if the meal is satiating enough. So look at what you typically reach for after a meal. You're reaching for, it sounds like, something salty, the nuts, the crunch, the nut butter, sometimes chocolate. So I would recommend make sure that you have those elements in the meal itself. So if you're having a salad, make sure there's salted, crunchy nuts in the salad. If you are having like a stew or a soup and you reach for chocolate a lot, make sure you have some root vegetables in the soup or stew so that you have that sweet element. Even like in a salad or in like a quinoa grain bowl, have some dried fruit in there, and that gives you that sweet chewy piece. So it's all about looking at the layers of flavors and textures in our meal. That's what brings satiation. That's what brings satisfaction. So that's where I would first start. Now, if it's towards that path I mentioned earlier about it just being a habit, my question, almost pushback here, would be to ask, so what? Right? Like, so what? There can be habits that we, think that are a problem, but are they really? So take a good look at, is this causing a problem for me? Do I feel super out of control, or do I feel like this is just a healthy part of the play food in my meals, in my days worth of eating? We need play foods, guys, right? We're not robots. We need to enjoy our food, and that's one of the great pleasures of life. So, if some of these habits of reaching for a little bit of snack or, good salty or crunchy or creamy or sweet food afterwards doesn't feel like it's getting in your way, and it doesn't feel like it is too out of control, then maybe it's something we should allow ourselves to enjoy and give ourselves permission to do. So just some food for thought. Now, if it's a habit that feels a little out of control, a little unsafe, and something you don't want, then I would recommend looking at like the environment in your kitchen. So a lot of times they say in habit formation, or sometimes they say it's easier to change our environment than it is to change ourselves. So think about what is in eyesight in your kitchen. Are these snacks that you're reaching for that you don't want to be reaching for, are they out on the counter? Are they in the first row of the fridge or the pantry? So see where they are and see if they're enabling you to kind of easily, quickly reach for them all the time. So that could be something to think about to make them a little less convenient. I love the saying, we eat what we see. So in the fridge, we eat what we see, but even more so, we eat what's prepared. So if it's, cut vegetables versus the whole vegetables not washed in their plastic bag. If it's like toasted, salted almonds out on the counter, it's much easier to eat than a bag of dry, almonds that we haven't toasted or salted ourselves yet. So that's something to think about. Third question. So she says, my cravings are linked to my hormonal time of the month. How do I be kind to myself and listen to my body? What are healthier foods that help with cravings? Or is there a way to stop the hormonal cravings in the first place? Well, first of all, for the person who asked this question, I just want to commend you for being attuned already to what's going on. You're asking, how can I be more attuned? But you're recognizing that your cravings do have kind of a cycle throughout the month, and that's a really good kind of awareness to have. So first of all, if I can just kind of get on my soapbox for a minute, I do want to say that our hunger and our cravings are messages from our body, and they're not bad. They are a way that we can connect with our body and recognize what's out of balance, what's kind of going on, and to, be more attuned. So they're not a bad thing. They're the way our body communicates with us. And, one recommendation I would make to be more attuned is to kind of keep a food and mood journal. I go into this in depth with my clients in sessions to help them kind of learn how to connect, how we're feeling and then what we're eating as a result, or what we're eating and how we're feeling as a result. So that could be one way, because keeping a journal is helping us honor what's coming up and giving space for what is, coming up in the moment, so that we can acknowledge it and see what it is before reacting to it. Now, she also asked about what are healthier foods that help with cravings. So one of my top go-to food categories is something, it's a category that has magnesium. So magnesium is a mineral that is involved in so many chemical processes in our body, and it helps to relax the muscles. So we often reach for like chocolate because we want that relaxation effect. So dark chocolate, 70% or higher, has a good amount of magnesium. Avocado has magnesium, as well as nuts and seeds. And then some dark leafy greens like spinach and kale. So some ideas there would be something like chocolate chia pudding, because chia seeds are seeds, so they have good magnesium, and of course dark chocolate like raw cacao powder. The chocolate pudding that uses avocado, that kind of chocolate pudding would be a good combination of avocado and chocolate. I also like green soups where you can add a lot of good greens like broccoli and kale or spinach, zucchini. You simmer it in, broth, and then you can blend it up. And you add lemon or ginger and things, or it's like cilantro or basil or parsley. And that's a really, really nourishing, grounding soup. So, and then finally her question is there a way to stop the hormonal cravings in the first place? The one thing I would say here is to link the fact that blood sugar is connected with our hormones. So we want to maintain a stable blood sugar so that our hormones can be stable. So I would recommend eating more frequently, especially the first day, the first and second day when you experience more intense symptoms, to eat more frequently. So don't let yourself get down to that point of, your stomach's really growling, or you wait, a long time after it starts growling to eat. Have a shorter time span, a shorter window between when you eat, so that you can keep the blood sugar stable. So I'm going to go to the fourth question, the fourth and final question, and this is, I'm prone to snack after dinner on dark chocolate, ice cream, sometimes salty treats. What are strategies to curb this? So if we were in a session together, I would be really interested, I would be curious to understand what are those thoughts that are driving reaching for the snack after dinner. So what is that internal dialogue, that internal narrative? I'd be curious to hear that. Would it be something like, I deserve this, I've waited all day for this, I've been so good all day? What is that dialogue? I really encourage you to turn the criticism towards curiosity. Now, I'm not saying you are critical, but often we automatically kind of start to judge those thoughts, and that judgment, that criticism prevents us from seeing what's really going on. So I would really want to look at that, because we know that our thoughts and beliefs inform our emotions, and our emotions inform our behavior. That's the whole sequence. That's cognitive behavioral, therapy. Our thoughts inform our emotions, emotions inform our behavior. So if we're over here in the behavior category, wanting to switch some things around, we really do have to go back and look at those thoughts. And the critical to curious is really an interesting thing. So think of like two voices on your shoulder. One is critical, one is curious. So you can turn and acknowledge the criticism and say, hey, thanks for speaking up. I appreciate it. But I'm not going to do anything about that right now. I'm just going to let you stay here. And then you can turn to the curiosity and be curious about what's going on, and understanding, what are you really needing? I think part of this is really about asking, going back to that shift of focus. Instead of focusing on what we don't want to be doing, shifting the focus to what do we want to invite in? What do we want to be doing and to be allowing for ourselves? So to your question specifically about in the evening, and curbing the habits of reaching, thinking about the evening routine. What is the evening routine that would make you feel really good? And how do you want to feel from your evening routine? How do you want to feel the next morning? So think about what you'd want to invite into that routine. And then also going back to what I mentioned earlier about changing your environment, and re-engineering how kind of the flow of the evening goes. That could be something to look at. So maybe the bedtime routine is moved up, even if you go to the couch or watch TV after, but brushing your teeth right away, showering, getting into your robe, something like that, that signals there's a pause and there's a shift in energy. So those are some ideas to think about how to re-engineer the whole flow of the evening, but also to focus on what do I want to invite in? What is really going to be, nourishing for me? And then finally, I would also recommend to think about this idea of treats in our day. So I think the running theme in all of these questions is about, how do we treat ourselves, but also how do we feel good? And can there be a balance? Can the two exist together? And I say absolutely yeah. Yeah, they can exist together, but we want to be intentional. We want to be intentional whether we're eating a donut or a salad. We're going to feel better about what we're eating because we're intentional about it. And we'll feel worse about what we're eating if it's just mindless and automatic and we're not enjoying it and we're not, savoring it. That's why the mindfulness behind not just our eating and food choices, but our lifestyle in general is so important and so essential, because it feeds into all of our day and our choices. So in terms of treating ourselves, I'm a big proponent of proactively treating ourselves. So if you're struggling with, the dark chocolate or the ice cream or the salty treats at night, are you allowing yourself that permission at some other point in the day or some other point in the week? That permission to enjoy them. So maybe it's a matter of moving that up to another part of the day to make sure that you're getting it in, you're getting those treats in, but in a more intentional way. In a time that serves you better. So again, guys, I think for all of these questions, it's really about shifting focus from what do I not want, what's bothering me, what is something that I don't need right now, shifting focus from that to focusing on what would be best for me right now, what would serve me, and what do I want to invite in. And, that's a very different energy. And it can also give us pause. I think a lot of times we're just on autopilot, right? And there's no pause, there's no space to step back and just look at the situation and figure out, am I really hungry for this? Or what am I really hungry for? And then to start looking at this idea of hunger. What does hunger mean? And what are the different types of hunger that we can experience? And what are you experiencing in the moment? And yeah, that's the deeper work that I do with my clients, to really look at the fact that we're like a whole being, and we're kind of this holistic web of needs, of physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, all these different needs. And a lot of times our hunger is telling us, as a signal, or our hormonal cravings, or needs to reach for a snack after a meal. Those are all signals that there's something that we need, but we need that pause and to step back and to ask, what do I really need right now? What am I really hungry for? So I hope this was helpful. That's what I have for you guys today. I offer a free 30-minute consult if you're interested in diving into any of these topics one-on-one. And I'm happy to have that conversation, so you can reach out by DM, or you can email me, Katie at wholenourishment.net, Katie, Katie, at wholenourishment.net. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'm so happy to see you all here. Bye.